you would come
No,
out...
I really respect this guy. I think he's brilliant. What he's done, what he's accomplished. He's had 3 different careers.
Oh, he's great.
But I want to strangle him.
In the testosterone-fueled arena of action cinema, Sylvester Stallone has carved out a unique position as both a working-class hero and Hollywood outsider, whose rise from struggling screenwriter to global superstar represents one of entertainment's most improbable success stories. The man who created Rocky and Rambo embodies a distinctly American brand of cinematic masculinity built on grit, determination, and an unwavering belief in the power of underdog perseverance. However, Stallone's journey to the top has been marked by explosive conflicts with fellow actors whose approaches to craft, professionalism, or personal conduct fundamentally violated his blue-collar work ethic and street-smart understanding of Hollywood's power dynamics. What makes Stallone's professional antagonisms particularly compelling is how they reflect deeper cultural tensions about authenticity versus artifice within the entertainment industry's creative hierarchy. His legendary commitment to physical preparation and hands-on involvement in every aspect of his films has put him at odds with performers he perceives as entitled, lazy, or disconnected from the working-class values that define his artistic identity. These conflicts often stem from Stallone's belief that true movie stardom must be earned through sweat and sacrifice rather than inherited through privilege or achieved through political maneuvering, creating lasting feuds that illuminate the fault lines between different philosophies of success in contemporary Hollywood. 6. Richard Gere. The bitter animosity between Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere reached its most explosive peak during the production of The Lords of Flatbush, where their fundamentally incompatible personalities and approaches to filmmaking created an atmosphere of barely controlled hostility that nearly destroyed the low-budget production. When both young actors were cast in the 1974 ensemble drama, their contrasting backgrounds immediately established a dynamic that would define their relationship for decades to come. Stallone, struggling to establish himself as a serious actor while working multiple jobs to survive, encountered in Gere a classically trained performer whose Juilliard education and natural sophistication represented everything he resented about Hollywood's elitist tendencies. Their first rehearsal sessions revealed actors whose different approaches to character development and professional behavior made productive collaboration virtually impossible. Sly came from the streets and believed you earned respect through hard work, recalled director Steven Seagal, while Richard carried himself with this theatrical authority that immediately rubbed everyone the wrong way. Their creative differences quickly escalated into personal confrontations when Gere allegedly criticized Stallone's writing contributions to the script, dismissing his character suggestions as unrefined and dramatically naive. The conflict reached its breaking point during a lunch break when the two actors engaged in a heated argument that reportedly turned physical, with crew members separating them before the situation could escalate further. Gere's departure from the production shortly afterward was officially attributed to creative differences, but insiders understood it as the inevitable result of two incompatible egos occupying the same creative space. What made their antagonism particularly lasting was how it represented broader class conflicts within Hollywood's social hierarchy, with Stallone viewing Gere as emblematic of privileged actors who looked down on working-class performers. Their mutual disdain continued for decades, with both actors consistently declining projects that would require collaboration. 5. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The legendary rivalry between Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger represents perhaps Hollywood's most carefully orchestrated and mutually beneficial feud, with both action stars discovering that their public antagonism could generate enormous commercial value while masking genuine competitive resentment. When Schwarzenegger first emerged as a serious box office threat in the early 80s, Stallone recognized an existential challenge to his dominance in the action genre that required immediate and sustained response. Their competition began as purely professional assessment, but quickly evolved into personal animosity when both actors found themselves pursuing identical projects, leading to bidding wars that inflated budgets and elevated their mutual market value. Stallone's established position as Hollywood's premier action hero suddenly faced direct challenge from an Austrian bodybuilder whose physical presence and charismatic screen persona threatened to redefine audience expectations. Sly and Arnold turned professional rivalry into high art, observed producer Joel Silver, who worked with both actors on separate projects. They understood that their public feuding generated more publicity than any traditional marketing campaign could achieve, but the competition between them was absolutely real and sometimes vicious. The conflict intensified during the height of their careers when both actors consistently tried to outdo each other's box office performance, physical transformation, and on-screen violence quotient. Their rivalry extended beyond film roles to encompass everything from salary negotiations to gymnasium workouts, with each actor studying the other's career moves for strategic advantage. What made their antagonism particularly complex was how it served both actors' commercial interests while feeding genuine psychological competition. Stallone's streetwise intelligence clashed with Schwarzenegger's calculated ambition, creating a dynamic that elevated both careers while maintaining authentic mutual suspicion. The fourth, Eddie Murphy. The professional conflict between Sylvester Stallone and Eddie Murphy during the production of Beverly Hills Cop represents one of Hollywood's most significant missed opportunities, with their creative disagreements ultimately leading to Stallone's departure from what would become Murphy's career-defining role. When Paramount originally developed the project with Stallone as the lead character, the studio envisioned a gritty action drama that would capitalize on his established tough guy persona. However, the script's transformation into a comedy vehicle designed specifically for Murphy's improvisational talents created immediate friction between the two stars when they briefly overlapped during pre-production meetings. Stallone's vision of Axel Foley as a hardened Detroit cop contrasted sharply with Murphy's preference for the wisecracking, fast-talking character that would ultimately emerge. Sly wanted to make a serious cop thriller with occasional humor, recalled producer Jerry Bruckheimer, while Eddie saw opportunities for pure comedy gold that required completely different storytelling approach. Their meetings became exercises in diplomatic negotiation as both actors attempted to steer the project toward their respective strengths without directly challenging each other's commercial value. The situation deteriorated when Murphy's improvisational style during table reads began reshaping scenes that Stallone had carefully planned, leading to heated discussions about creative control and character ownership. Stallone reportedly expressed frustration with Murphy's tendency to abandon scripted dialogue in favor of spontaneous comedy, arguing that this approach undermined the story's dramatic foundation. Their conflict reached its inevitable conclusion when Stallone chose to abandon the project rather than compromise his artistic vision, though he later admitted regretting the decision after witnessing Murphy's enormous success in the role. What made their antagonism particularly interesting was how it revealed fundamental differences between action and comedy sensibilities that continue to challenge actors attempting to cross genre boundaries. 3. Steven Seagal. The mutual contempt between Sylvester Stallone and Steven Seagal represents one of action cinema's most personally vicious feuds, with both actors' inflated egos and competing claims to authentic toughness, creating a rivalry that extended far beyond professional disagreement into personal vendetta territory. When Seagal first emerged as a serious action star in the late 80s, his claims to real martial arts expertise and actual combat experience immediately put him at odds with Stallone's more theatrical approach to action heroism. Seagal's insistence on performing his own stunts and his public statements about authentic action versus Hollywood fantasy were widely interpreted as direct challenges to established stars like Stallone, who relied more heavily on stunt coordinators and special effects to create their iconic action sequences. Their initial industry encounters quickly revealed personalities fundamentally incompatible on every level. Steven thought he was the real deal while everyone else was just playing pretend, observed stunt coordinator Vic Armstrong, who worked with both actors on different projects. Sly understood that movies were entertainment, but Steven seemed to believe his own publicity about being some kind of actual warrior. The conflict escalated when both actors were considered for similar roles throughout the 90s, with Seagal allegedly making disparaging comments about Stallone's physical conditioning and fighting authenticity during casting meetings. Stallone responded by questioning Seagal's box office viability and acting ability, creating a cycle of mutual professional sabotage. Jean-Claude Van Damme. The professional rivalry between Sylvester Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme represents a fascinating study in how established action stars respond to emerging talent that threatens their market dominance, with their conflict revealing the fragile psychology underlying Hollywood's testosterone-driven competitive landscape. When Van Damme first achieved mainstream success in the late 80s, his balletic martial arts skills and European sophistication presented a direct challenge to Stallone's more traditional American action hero archetype. Stallone's initial assessment of Van Damme as a legitimate threat to his box office supremacy led to a carefully orchestrated campaign of professional undermining disguised as industry competition. Their rivalry intensified when both actors found themselves pursuing similar projects, with studios often using their mutual antagonism as leverage in salary negotiations. Sly saw Jean-Claude as representing everything foreign and pretentious about the new generation of action stars, recalled casting director Mike Fenton, who observed both actors during audition processes. Van Damme's balletic fighting style and European sensibility challenged Stallone's understanding of what American audiences wanted from their action heroes. The conflict deepened when Van Damme allegedly made comments about Stallone's age and physical limitations during press interviews, suggesting that older action stars should step aside for younger, more athletic performers. Stallone interpreted these remarks as direct personal attacks rather than simple competitive positioning. Wesley Snipes. The bitter conflict between Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes during their collaboration on Demolition Man represents one of action cinema's most professionally destructive partnerships, with their on-set antagonism nearly derailing the production while revealing fundamental incompatibilities between old-school and modern approaches to action filmmaking. When both actors were cast in the futuristic thriller, studio executives anticipated that their combined star power would create box office gold. Instead, their partnership quickly devolved into a masterclass in barely controlled professional warfare that tested everyone's patience and professionalism. Stallone's traditional approach to action sequences, which emphasized physical comedy and character-driven humor, clashed dramatically with Snipes' preference for martial arts authenticity and dramatic intensity throughout their shared scenes. Wesley brought this method actor intensity to every take, recalled director Marco Brambilla, while Sly operated from his established action movie playbook that relied on timing and physical comedy. They were literally speaking different creative languages. The conflict escalated when Snipes allegedly challenged Stallone's authority on set, questioning his character choices and suggesting alternative approaches to their confrontation scenes. Stallone, accustomed to maintaining creative control over his projects, interpreted these suggestions as direct challenges to his professional competence rather than collaborative input. Sylvester Stallone's professional conflicts reveal the territorial nature of action cinema and the fierce competition required to maintain dominance in Hollywood's most physically demanding genre. These antagonisms demonstrate how ego, authenticity, and commercial rivalry create lasting feuds. Subscribe for more Hollywood tensions.